Dum 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 dum. Pew. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with Don, and we are going to get it on. Not in that way. Take your minds away from where they just went. I feel like I've lost the consistency with that intro, haven't I? Like we just done Lion King there in the jungle, the mighty jungle, and it's never been. It's been beatboxing. It's been complete ad hoc. We've added a rhyme. And but this is the thing with the world's most popular unproduced podcast, we're going to have some changes, and hopefully the consistency of my voice and what we talk about is going to be enough for you guys to keep hanging around. So I did start last week's episode and another one before that with like the crux of a story, like you wake up this, and like it's a classic thing that you try in terms of trying to hook an audience in. But I'm not going to do that today, because if I was, I would have already been starting it. And I like to keep you guys informed. So we've done, I think this is, I'm just going to double check because I sometimes make assumptions, and assumptions are the mother of all evil. And the mother might be a lovely lady, we don't know. But yes, we are, recap wrap on the last tooth. Okay, episode 19. So we're in episode 20 today. Guys, we've made it to episode 20. And if you're listening, you've made it to episode 20. And I've first of all, got to say, I am super appreciative of the fact that you've given up your time. If you've listened from episode 18 to 20, like, and you're starting the journey now, you're amazing, regardless. And hopefully that we can turn this into something great as we go. The original goal was to make sure that we did no less than 26. That's the minimum maximum we're going for. And then see how we go from there. And then I suppose that brings me to today is like, I really had nothing planned for this because sometimes I plan, sometimes I don't. And I feel like those first 19 episodes were really important to me to get out there. Like I had to do that. There were some models that I had to get out there. There was things I had to talk about, see how they landed, see how I could learn from them. And now I'm heading into this territory of like, where to from here? And isn't that the whole point? Like Identity Human, the journey that we take you on, it was always to see where this went and be as honest and as raw as possible. So if I'm honest, like I have no plan other than to perhaps repeat some of the stuff we've spoken about, try and get some guests on. Like I've bought some portable microphones to maybe record on my phone so I can actually go to someone's house, make it more convenient, or start to get other voices on here, because that's when we start to apply these things and really test them and get some other knowledge on here. I was potentially going to do some of my failures in the past, but I thought, it's actually, that's the kind of thing it's better to have someone to ask you, because if you have the right questions being asked, you can get some golden nuggets, whereas I might hold things back because I feel bad and or am I overthinking it? But not for tonight. So for today, sorry, whatever time you're listening to this. So I thought, we've spoken about the golden tool of high performance triangle. But I know that sometimes it's how do we take that as a tangible action and understanding into life? Because I've learned a thing or two about, like, I think I'm an interpretive communicator. And what that means is, like, I'll understand something and I'll say it and I'll be like, now you should understand it. But I won't break it down. I won't put it in like little points that make it easy to understand. I'll just be like, look, I've given you the source. I've given you the foundation. Now you've got to understand everything I understand. But actually, the more I learn about like this interpretive communicating versus someone that just breaks it down and communicates in that way, is like, I'm not a breadth communicator, I'm a depth communicator. And I got that from someone that did personality readings of your face. So they've gone through the whole like Myers-Briggs and all the other ones that are out there, except for actually the one we do. I'm trying to get them to do ours. And he said he started to pick up trends, and he's done lots of deep reading and. So he started to look at face. So he looked at epigenetics, and he looked at how, things can get passed down from generations, and you'll have like a core personality. There'll be elements of your personality that won't change. But you can look at people's face in the way that there's elements that change, but there's bits that aren't. So he looks at your face, he looks at your personality, and he will then say, look, this is how you are, this is what you do. And I went through and I was pretty impressed. But there were some really cool concepts that came out of that. And maybe I'll do a update on that in a later day, because I've gone and ordered his textbook. I want to go deep now. I want to go deep into that because I think that's fascinating. And I'll maybe do an update as to what he said to me, to you guys, so you can understand like how it comes across. But the reason I haven't jumped straight into that is because that was more about me. And I go, how's that going to help someone that doesn't have the same personality? It's like, let's talk about the basics of it and be like, oh, there's face personalities. And once I've read the textbook, then we'll dive deep into it. That's when you guys will hear at in depth and how excited I get. And then I'll say, why don't you send some photos in of me and I'll try it and we can practice and then we can have a laugh and say that was fun while we tried. But sorry, I get sidetracked. One of the concepts I took away from that is like the breadth versus depth communicators. So some people, I like to go deep, and some people like breadth. So breadth is like BREADTH. If they're talking to you, they'll tell you the little details in their day. Like I always use my mom as an example, and she's very good at giving me the details. Like, I was playing with Clark today, and he got this little car from in the corner, and he walked over to me, and he was smiling as he said it, and then he put it on the couch, and he started going, and I'm like, I'm trying to listen, but it takes a lot for me to listen because it's got so much detail and it's so in breadth, and it gives a really good understanding. But if I'm not thinking about it, I'm like, where's the depth to this? Where's the depth to this? And I want the depth. And that really helped me reflect, and I can listen to my mom a lot easier because I understand where she's coming from. So I'm hoping even that concept, if you listen to this, that's going to help you. As well as, and let me find it quickly so that I don't lead you guys down the Ron Weasley, the wrong path here. But it was this concept of interpretive communication versus descriptive communication. So I'm an interpretive communicator, which means I like the why and the how, specifically the why. Like, I'm always like why. I'm always going to source. Whereas he said that there are some people that are descriptive communicators. So it's like the more linear type where it goes what, when, where. And I was like, that is so insightful. Like, why did I not see this before? Because when I'm interacting with people now, if they start to give me what, where, when, and more descriptive, I already can communicate better with them. I can already listen better because I'm like, it's allowing me to tap into what they are and how they are, as opposed to me just thinking everyone communicates the way I do, because I can now recognize it, which is great in terms of personality tests and understanding others and communication, which I think that's going to be an important aspect to think about coming down the line and how we all communicate. Maybe I should do a communication one, episode 21, because we haven't actually covered that, and that's key. If you want to get started, go and listen to Marshall Rosenberg's Nonviolent Communication. I think it's a really good start point for anyone that is struggling to communicate with those that they love or people around them, because it gives a good structural breakdown. Anyway, that's me getting sidetracked. So we're going to try and give high performance triangle and that consistency model that we spoke about, or the goal achieving model, so you, as you follow this journey, you can understand, like, how does that apply to real life? Because it's all great in principle, but I can't relay it. I can't just get the context over. I'm a descriptive communicator and I can't understand because Don's just given me the how and the why and I can't put it to my life. So I'm going to try and take you through what's been happening, what's going on, and how I'm applying these as I go to really help me keep pushing through. So what's going on elsewhere and what are we building? So what's going on is we're currently trying to launch an ice bath course. So it's going to be the same, pretty much the same stuff we've spoken about on this podcast, but obviously it's more in depth. We're starting webinars. We've got to put reels out on Instagram. We've got to start creating some awareness around it. We've got to start, the webinars. I've got to start doing webinars. I've got to plan the webinars. We've got a Facebook group called Ice Bath for Beginners, where I'm now starting to build up, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not authority, but recognition. Like, people then know that the stuff I'm saying, I know what I'm talking about. So when I say, guys, I'm going on a webinar, they go, ooh, I like what Don's been saying. I'm going to go and listen to what he has to say because he might have some more nuggets. So I've got to start adding that into my day-to-day life. What else we've got going on is we've got London Marathon happening on the 21st. So it's 2 weeks time. So we're still having to train for that. I'm having to raise money for Young Lives vs. Cancer, because I think obviously that is a special course. So we're sitting at 1,700 odd pounds, and I've got to get to officially 2,000 pounds. That's their target. But I went higher this year at 2,500 pounds because I like to go out of my comfort zone and make sure that we're learning something in this process. Now, so I've got ice bath course. We've got London Marathon coming up. Post that, we've got Three Peaks, the three mountains in the UK that we're trying to do in 24 hours with one of my clients, and Ray is joining me on that. So we're training for that. So we're adding in training hikes during the day, and we're trying to get that going and make sure that we can actually be one of the front runners in that group to make sure we're pushing people along rather than someone that's slowing everyone down. Along with that, Ray's trying to run Route to Growth and get Cube going, which is our other business. And then I've got Samson Almond, obviously, which is now picking. I mean, it's picking up. Like, you've got client maintenance. I've got to try and build in the sales process at the same time. And on top of all that, we've got 4 beautiful young kids that are currently on holiday. So we have to really manage the time that we're spending. We have to take it in turns. I have to know when I'm taking days off. Me and Ray have to plan things. And on top of that, we're going, right, we're also going to make sure that we are sleeping, because obviously you hear everyone goes, oh, you're not working until you're grinding till 2 in the morning. It's like, no. Everything that we're about, identity human, all those kind of things, we want to make sure that we are performing. But I and Ray, I know that she's the same. We don't consider performance to be something that's at the cost of your individual health. Because, and I said this earlier in the week in one of my reels, is like, no one can ever fill the space that you leave. So actually, it's not performance if you're creating something that's going to have you not able to keep doing what you're doing. It's a very different concept to like leadership and trying to make sure that you're succession planning yourself out so that you're developing people around you. But we're talking about life. We're talking about things that you're trying to do. So on top of everything that we've got going on there, we're going, right, we're going to make sure that we're strict on sleep. So we're going to start waking up at the same time. We're going to start going to bed at the same time. And I know I'm talking fast now, and I'm really sorry. I'm going to slow it down because I've picked it up. But I've got another, say, 20 minutes till we've agreed, me and Ray have agreed to be electronics off, make sure we are either on the couch in the bedroom reading and getting ready, or in bed going to sleep, and whatever that looks like. So we're getting really strict on the boundaries. We're making sure we're spending time with kids. We're running the businesses. We're trying to get things going, but none of it at the cost of our own personal health. Right. So how do I then apply consistency model and high performance triangle? So first of all, before I came on the podcast, because I actually record live the podcast and I stream. Before I came on the stream, I was analyzing some of the reels, and I just said to Ray, I said, you know what, like sometimes it gets really frustrating because I've spent, well, maybe 2.5, 3-ish years now trying the social media thing on and off. And I know that I haven't been consistent. That could be one of my things, but without getting much feedback. So we've tried the gas Instagram. I tried my personal Instagram. I've tried the ice bath Instagram when I had no agenda. Now we're doing it again. And you just see the views are so inconsistent. And I just said to her, I was like, sometimes I just feel like I'm walking uphill because I put my heart and soul into things. I've got all this passion. I've got all of it, but I don't feel that after 3 years, I've got much to show for it. And there was quite a downer right before I had to come on and make sure that I'm that usual positive self for the people that are. And like, I think the point of me acknowledging this is like when we spoke about a high performance triangle, and I said there's ups and downs and emotions. It's now going, look, they are there all the time, but the point of high performance triangles allows you to recognize it, to bring them up a lot quicker. And that's what we're doing. So like I had to say, look, I'm coming on this stream and I'm going to make sure that I give my best, because those people that are here for the stream, they are giving up their time. So they are committed, they are loyal, they are, they're bought in to whatever it is that we are creating. And if I pitch up and I just go, hi guys, I'm feeling like, I'm not doing them a service. And I know that there's an ability to be able to admit to that and show vulnerability and all that kind of stuff, because I think we're all human. But I think at the same time, I always say we need to practice gratitude. So it's about the structures in my mind to be able to practice gratitude, to be able to say, right, it doesn't matter how I feel, I have to do it. And because I have to do it, it gets me back, it gets the momentum back, and it allows me to tap back into, bringing that dip up and making sure I'm more consistent with it. So that's trying to apply high performance triangle, where I've recognized mindset isn't where it needs to be at, but I know that the structure is going to help me work through it. So I know when I sit down, I click, I get into a little routine, I put my blue light glasses on, my headphones on. Those are all kind of mental structures that are going, it's okay, take a breath. It's okay, take a breath. Now get yourself back to where you need to be so that you can actually do this in a reasonable, consistent state. And it worked tonight. Like I was straight back on and I forgot about that. I was like, oh, actually, why was I feeling that? Why was I feeling sad like that? Why was I feeling a bit down? It's just views. It's just you're learning how to do your reels properly. There's like, remove the emotion from it. But if I hadn't done that, I'd probably still be like, oh yeah, these reels. And I would have felt really sorry for myself. I think we all go through those states, But the fact that you have structures around you allows you to move through those. And I think the discipline comes from being able to recognize those structures and actually have them and actually commit to doing them. And that's where that real intent behind the high performance triangle helps, and not necessarily always only in a high performing environment. It's in your everyday environment that helps. Now, the next model that I wanted to bring in quickly here is the consistency model. So just as a quick reminder, the consistency model at the top of it at the top sits like, your goal that you're trying to achieve. And for me, it started off as trying to be consistent. And linking into that are 3 bulbs. The one bulb or ball or mind map clouds, whatever you want to call them, underneath it is scale. The one in the middle is influence, and the one on the right side is focused attention. And underneath that all is desire. So I obviously have a desire. Me and Ray have this desire to be able to create purpose, create helping others, create. Obviously, you want to create some wealth, you want to create something. So we have this desire, but what we've really got to be aware of right now is scale, because we had enough going on our plates with, Samson Armour, the leadership business. We've got the other window coating one that we're trying to work on together with the team. And Ray's got Route to Growth. We've got the pool. Ray's got Cube. We've got the kids. So there's a lot going on. Now to add, I said to her, we've got to make sure we just are really aware that doing reels sounds great. But actually, if you're not in a creative mode, it could take you an hour to do one reel. And how are you going to factor that in? So we've had to be very understanding of scale, much more careful with our time, and actually being much more focused and productive in the time that we do have. And it's about going, I originally said to us like, we should be doing 2 to 3 times reels a day, because that's what I've seen, other content creators say. And then immediately I was like, the scale is going to be wrong on that, because if I try and create 3 reels a day, that's going to be a lot of time, mental time, and it's not just creating the video editing, it's creating the text that goes over the video. And then on top of the text that goes over the video, it's the copy that goes in the caption. And all of that counts towards some bigger algorithm, which we all think we understand, but no one actually does. So when you ask like, how do you crack the algorithm? It's always changing. And so that is where scale then really comes in. And the next thing that comes is influence. Like, darn, it's so annoying. Is I just limited Instagram, I just limited Facebook, and I was enjoying it. There was like 10 minutes a day, that was it. But obviously, we got a Facebook group, and there's 3 or 4 others that I have to be active in to create this. Like, I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to ice baths. So if I'm doing this course, at least you know that I'm not just some random. So that's Facebook timer. I'm always like, I just need an extra 5 minutes because I've got to troll this group to answer questions to make sure that I'm learning at the same time as other people might be drawn into my groups. And then there's Instagram, which is like create a reel, make sure that I'm getting copy, and that often takes longer than 10 minutes. And you can't just create it on the computer, which I tried to do, because the inbuilt functions within Instagram create the algorithm better and, right? So there's influence, and I've got to be very aware that if I'm not on Instagram creating a reel, I can't stay on there and scroll, because that was the whole point of me getting off at the first place. It was like trying to control the dopamine hits, trying to make sure that I'm not getting influenced by the wrong reels and going off task, which brings into the next one, which is focused attention. So this is that whole model at play, which I'm having to be aware of. And when I look at it, I'm like, oh yes, that's what I need to be aware of. Oh yes, that's what I need to be aware of. It's like focused attention is, we set out to do this ice bath course, which means that my focus now goes off Samson Armand or a client. So I've got to now create some visual cues or things that allow me to not take my finger off the ball of these other things that are going, that are actually, they've got people's lives, they've got responsibilities, they're privileges that I've created for myself, that if I'm not aware of the focused attention on them, they can drop, which would mean that it's undoing a year's worth of work to get to that point. But then it's the same with the ice bath courses. You want to create some momentum. In order to create momentum, you have to keep your eye on the ball. So to keep your eye on the ball, you have to create focused attention, because at the beginning of anything, you're going to have to put more attention towards it to keep it going until it becomes a lot easier. So that's where, having Ray, we sat down for 45 minutes before this stream and jumped on almost like a strategy thing, where she took me through some of the back-end marketing elements that she's looked at, some of the problem framing that we're doing. And then she's like, are you prepared to do one webinar a week on this? Because these are the numbers that we're trying to hit, and this is what we're going to need. And I was like, yep, that's good. That's what we've got to do. So it's like trying to make sure that we keep touching base to move things forward. Because we've also got Eat, Sleep, Level Up, Repeat. If you're listening to this, go and take a listen to that, because that's both of us together. like how to create high performing, like a high performing couple, creating a high performing life, and what we talk about and how we go through that journey. So there's another podcast, and I'm talking to him like, okay, where does this leave Identity Human? Am I just doing it just to converse and just keep practicing? Are we pushing Eat, Sleep, Level Up, Repeat? Am I doing it on my personal channel? And there's all these questions that we don't really know. And what I really like about it now, and that's those two models aside, is just like, well, let's just create action. Let's just keep trying. So Ray's just testing and throwing things out there, and she's she's created some reels that have got some very good views. Where I've put some time and effort into my own, and she's surpassed my views. And I was just like, oh, that's so annoying. But it is what it is. We're a team at the end of the day, and it doesn't really matter. So that's a quick background, not a quick background. That took almost 10 minutes. Everything that we've got going on at the moment, how I'm applying high performance triangle, making sure that I'm sticking to ice baths, cold showers, trying to get the sleep patterns that are like regular to make sure that we're more consistent and not adding in too much extracurricular stuff. So like, I can't wait to get the marathon out the way because that's going to free up a lot of time and energy. But then at the same time, I know that the marathon training was actually quite good for me because it was mindfulness. When you go out the runs, you feel good. But I'm actually quite excited because I get to replace those with walks and. So I think it's like, how are we making sure that we've got health, wealth, lifestyle, all of these things in balance the whole time? And again, I'm going to remind you guys, if you've been listening before, we've spoken about the pendulum swing of life. So wherever there's a positive, there's a negative. Wherever there's a happy, there's a sad. You know, the positive electron and the negative electron. Life has a pendulum swing. And I think the art comes in with you as the human being, the identity human that we are going to keep referring to, of being able to recognize where that pendulum is swinging and where it should be. And so obviously for me, it should be slap bang on that consistency thing, left, right, like just left and right of center the whole time. But sometimes it's going to swing. So if we talk about motivation in that high performance mindset model, like sometimes the pendulum's going to swing and you're going to be super motivated. Sometimes that pendulum's going to swing and you're going to be super unmotivated. And if you're not aware of where that pendulum is, then you're going to be at the whim of your emotions and you're going to leave it there and you're going to be unmotivated. Same though, if you're aware, if you're at the motivator, like you can create some intense things in your life, being super motivated, making some really intense decisions that have long-term effects. But if you're aware of where that pendulum is swinging, you can swing it back to the middle and you'd be like, okay, this is where I want to be. I'm not quite there. Okay, let's make sure that we're aligned. Let's keep going. What's the vision? What's the mission? What's that focused attention that we need to do? And I think that's the whole point that gets exciting. Once you start to get on the roller coaster, you start to be able to be more aware of these things. So I'm not going to just drag on for the sake of dragging on. I hope that gives a more tangible example of like how I quickly flit in and out of that consistency model. Where the high performance triangle really helped today was just making sure that I cracked on with the stream and the podcast, that I just was aware of the structures of the glasses, the headphones going on. You know, it was the intent behind knowing that putting those on was going to put me in a different mind space, as opposed to not knowing how I was going to get out of it. So it was the actionable steps that I could take. And again, tomorrow I've got the alarm that's going to go off. I'm going to want to wake up at 6 because that's when my alarm's going to go off. And I'm going to go and I need to get in the cold shower. I'm just going to need to just do these things. And I haven't been consistently doing them, but I think it's one of those where we have to appreciate where that pendulum is. And the more you can sense it, the more you can bring it back to where it needs to be for you to perform. Because I think at the end of the day, as identity human, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to empower our mindset. We're trying to empower our mindset to be more consistent. We're trying to empower our mindset so that we can recognize when the pendulum is swinging the wrong way, when life is taking us the wrong way. And it doesn't mean that we're trying to control life, because you can't control life. But what you can do is you can control how you see what life brings you. Because I think we forget that sometimes. It's that choice. Let's tie back in the Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Let's tie back in the principle of linear thinking versus circular thinking, and how life's always going to bring us back around, but we've got to keep going. We've got to keep recognizing this pendulum swing that keeps us out of equilibrium. And the more you can recognize that, the more you can make sure that you're adjusting how you see things in your life to make sure that you're slap bang in the middle. And I think that's where you realize that, like I use the term vanilla, like life when it's vanilla gets exciting because you can find pleasure in the simplest things. so you can find pleasure in the structures because you realize what it can get you on the other side of it. Yeah, and I think like let's leave it on that. Like let's embrace the vanilla. Let's make sure that we're really understanding where our pendulum is swinging, and being aware of it and how we can change that. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. That has now taken 26 odd minutes of your day. And if you've played it at fast forward speed, and because I already speak quickly already, that's going to be super fast. So well done you for focusing. And thanks for tuning in. I hope that was helpful. It was something a bit different, and trying to, again, like bring in the tangible sides of these models that we're creating and showing you how we're applying them. And yeah, that's it. I hope to have you listen again in a week's time. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions, each episode has an opportunity for you to comment on that. I do read them, and it's great to see people interacting with it. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. Remember, Ubuntu, we are who we are through others, but I'll look after me for you, and you look after me. You look after you for me. All right. Thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate you. See you in a week's time. Take care of yourself.